Hi guys, welcome back to Mystery Channel. Today I'm going over another chapter out of the book, The Children of Odin. I said I would continue with this and then I stopped. I lost my way, so today's another installment of that. This chapter is titled How Freya Gained Her Necklace and How Her Loved One Was Lost from Her. Yes, Loki went through Asgard silent with his head bent. And the dwellers in Asgard said unto one another, "This will teach Loki to work no more mischief." They did not know that what Loki had done had sown the seeds of mischief, and that these seeds were to sprout up and bring sorrow to the beautiful Vanna Freya, whom the giant wanted to carry off with the sun and the moon as payment for his building of the wall around Asgard. Freya had looked upon the wonders that Loki had brought into Asgard, the golden threads that were Sif's hair, and Frey's boar that shed light from its bristles as it flew. The gleam of these golden things dazzled her, and they made her dream in the daytime and the nighttime of the wonders that she herself might possess. What wonderful things the three giant women would give me if I could bring myself to go visit them on their mountaintop. Long ere this, when the wall around their city had not yet been built, and when the gods had set up only the court with their 12 seats in the hall that was for Odin and the hall that was for the goddesses, there had come to Asgard 3 giant women. They had come after the gods had set up a forge and had begun to work the metal for their buildings. The metal that they worked was pure gold. With gold they had built Gladsheim, the hall of Odin, and with gold they made all their dishes and their household ware. Then was the age of gold, and the gods did not grudge gold to anyone. Happy were the gods then, and no shadow nor foreboding lay on Asgard. But after the 3 giant women came, the gods began to value the gold and to hoard it. They played with it no more, and the happy innocence of their first days departed from them. At last, the 3 were banished from Asgard. The gods turned their thoughts from the hoarding of gold, and they built up their city, and they made themselves strong. Now Freya, the lovely Vanir bride, thought upon the giant women, and of the wonderful things of gold they had flashed through their hands. But not to Odur, her husband, did she speak of her thoughts. For Odur, more than any of the other dwellers in Asgard, was wont to think of the days of happy innocence, before gold came to be hoarded and valued. Odur would not have Freya go near the mountaintop where the 3 had their high seat. But Freya did not cease to think upon them, and upon the things of gold they had. "Why should Odur know that I went to them?" she said to herself. "No one will tell him. And what difference will it make if I go to them and gain some lovely thing for myself? I shall not love Odur the less because I go on my own for once." Then one day she left their palace, leaving Odur, her husband, playing with their little child, Hanessa. She left the palace and went down to the earth. There she stayed for a while tending the flowers that were her charge, and after a while she asked the elves to tell her where the mountaintop was on which the 3 giant women stayed. The elves were frightened and would not tell her, although she was queen over them. She left them and stole down to the caves of the dwarves. It was they who showed her the way to the seat of the giant women, but before they showed her the way, they made her feel shame and misery. "We will show you the way if you stay with us here," said one of the dwarves. "For how long would you have me stay?" said Freya. "Until the cocks in Svartheim crow," said the dwarves, closing around her. "We want to know what the company of one of the Vanir is like." "I will stay," said Freya. Then one of the dwarves reached up and put his arms around her neck and kissed her with his ugly mouth. Freya tried to break away from them, but the dwarves held her. "You cannot go away from us until the cocks of Svartheim crow," they said. Then one and then another of the dwarves pressed up to her and kissed her. They made her sit down beside them on heaps of skins that they had. When she wept, they screamed at her and they beat her. One, when she would not kiss him on the mouth, bit her hand. So Freya stayed with the dwarves until the cocks of Svartheim crew. They showed her the mountain, on the top of which the 3 banished from Asgard had their abode. The giant women sat overlooking the world of men. "What would you have from us, wife of Odur?" one who was called Golve said to her. "Alas, now that I have found you, I know I should ask you for naught," Freya said. "Speak, Vanna," said the second of the giant women. The third said nothing, but she held up in her hand a necklace of gold, most curiously fashioned. "How bright it is," Freya said. "There is shadow where you sit, woman, but the necklace you hold makes brightness now. Oh, how I should joy to wear it." "This is the necklace Brisingamen," said the one who is called Golve. "It is yours to wear, wife of Odur," said the one who held it in her hands. Freya took the shining necklace and clasped it around her neck. She could not bring herself to thank the giant women, for she saw there was evil in their eyes. She made reverence to them, however, and she went from the mountain on which they sat overlooking the world of men. In a while she looked down and saw Brisingamen, and her misery went from her. It was the most beautiful thing ever made by hands. None of the Asnor and none other of the Vanir possessed a thing so beautiful. It made her more and more lovely, and Odur, she thought, would forgive her when he saw how beautiful and how happy Brisingamen made her. She rose up from amongst the flowers and took leave of the sight of the elves, and she made her way to Asgard. All who greeted her looked long and with wonder upon the necklace that she wore, and into the eyes of the goddesses there came a look of longing when they saw Brisingamen. But Freya hardly stopped to speak to anyone. As swiftly as she could, she made her way back to her own palace. She would show herself to Odur and win his forgiveness. She entered her shining palace and called to him. No answer came. Her child, the little Hanessa, was on the floor playing. Her mother took her in her arms, but the child, when she looked upon Brisingamen, turned away crying. Freya left Hanessa down and searched again for Odur. He was not in any part of their palace. She went into the houses of all who dwelt in Asgard, asking for tidings of him. None knew where he had gone to. At last Freya went back to their palace and waited for Odur to return, but Odur did not come. One came to her. It was the goddess, Odin's wife, the queenly Frigga. "You are waiting for Odur, your husband," Frigga said. "Let me tell you, your Odur will not come to you here. He went when, for the sake of a shining thing, you did what would make him unhappy. Odur has gone from Asgard, and no one knows where to search for him." "I will seek him outside of Asgard," Freya said. She wept no more, but she took the little child Hanessa and put her in Frigga's arms. Then she mounted her car that was drawn by 2 cats and journeyed down from Asgard to Midgard, the earth, to search for Odur, her husband. Year in and year out, all around the earth, Freya went searching and calling for her lost Odur. She went as far as the bounds of earth, where she could look over to Jotunheim, where the giant who would have carried away with the sun and the moon as payment for the building of the wall around Asgard. But in no place did she find a trace of her husband Odur. At last she turned her car toward Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that stretched from Midgard, the earth, to Asgard, the dwelling of the gods. Heimdall, the watcher for the gods, guarded the rainbow bridge. To him Freya went with a half-hope fluttering in her heart. "Oh, Heimdall," she cried. "Oh, Heimdall, watcher for the gods, speak and tell me if you know where Odur went." "Odur is in every place where the searcher has not come. Odur is in every place that the searcher has left. Those who seek him will never find Odur," said Heimdall, the watcher of the gods. Then Freya stood on Bifrost and wept. Frigga, the queenly goddess, heard the sound of the weeping and came out of Asgard to comfort her. "What comfort can you give me, Frigga?" cried Freya. "What comfort can you give me when Odur will never be found by anyone who searches for him?" "Behold how your daughter, the little child Hanessa, has grown," said Frigga. Freya looked upon and saw the beautiful maiden standing on Bifrost, the rainbow bridge. She was young, more youthful than any of the Vanir or any of the Asnor, and her face and her form were so lovely that all the hearts became melted when they looked upon her. And Freya was comforted in her loss. She followed Frigga across Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, and came once again into the city of the gods. And in her own palace in Asgard, Freya dwelt with Hanessa, her child. Still she wore around her neck Brisingamen, the necklace that lost her Odur, but now she wore it not for its splendor, but as a sign of the wrong she had done. She weeps, and her tears become golden drops that fall onto the earth. And by poets who know her story, she is called the beautiful lady in tears. All right, guys, that's the end of that chapter. Thank you for watching. You guys have yourselves a very great day.